Denton Community Television, operated by the Mayborn School of Journalism, the University of North Texas.
Hi, how are you doing? Hope you're having a great day. Thank you so much for watching. And I'm honored to have a guest today that's very much part of the Denton scene, the Denton culture. Jim, thank you for being here.
Nice to be here, Mike.
So you've been around Denton quite a while?
Only since July of 1974.
Yeah.
I'm a foreigner.
You had traveled around a lot prior to coming to Denton.
A lot.
You grew up, your dad was in the military.
I was with Bechtel Construction Company, and we had to move everywhere the jobs were.
Yeah. You went to a lot of different schools and things like that.
Well, 13 elementary schools, 4 high schools, 39 homes.
Really?
Yeah.
You had to really learn how to interact with new people all the time.
It might have been acquired. I wouldn't know. I always envied somebody that lived in one town.
Yeah. But you're still close to your family, and you're a Mormon?
I was born and raised in one of those families, yeah.
Yeah. How many wives do you have?
Don't have much, just one at a time.
You go to Utah every now and then?
I went to my dad's 100th birthday in Springville, Utah last week.
Yeah, that's great.
And there was about 80 family descendants all there.
Really?
Yeah. He's still in good health.
You live that long too?
No, I don't know. I joked with the executive at MGM and said I'd have to write for another 3 decades to catch up to 30 years that I didn't write. That would make me 100.
When were the years when you were doing most of your writing?
Since 1998.
Yeah.
I picked it up again. Yeah.
When did you publish your first book?
Krista Wood at Tattersall published the first Christmas story in 2000.
Really? Yeah.
Wait a minute. 2003. Christmas of 2003. It was Sarah Hickman that, by singing one of the songs in the Christmas story on her Christmas CD, that's what actually got me formally published, as I was told.
Really?
So what does that mean? I haven't finished the book yet.
She's very talented. I've enjoyed her shows a lot.
Well, I miss her. I really do.
So you've written short stories, and there's some bits of poetry mixed in, like at the intro of your stories and chapters. So you write just kind of what feels, you're kind of setting a mood and then telling the story. And
that's a way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I did not plan on having the collection of poetry in this short story collection, but Miss Wood at Tattersall said, you will have that in there. It's the 8th work that's in there, and it's poetry from 1969 and 70.
Oh, really?
Song lyrics, poetry. And I stopped writing poetry and lyrics.
In those genres?
Because an old man told me, he said, you quit writing those things and write a story instead. He said his friend wrote White Christmas and didn't have to write anything else. He said, somebody else can write all the songs.
It's hard to be a master of all those arts, yeah.
Well, I hoped he was right. I hadn't written any stories by then. It was my mother that told me, you need to write books.
Your mom told you that?
Yeah. Write a letter home and it'd be 10 pages, 12 pages, 20 pages. She said, why don't you just write a book instead?
You're just a natural storyteller, I think, too.
Well, that might be a That might be a curse upon the other family members too. I have one uncle that's a politician, and I can't stand his stories.
So you wrote the Little Bits Heart of Christmas and then the Valentine card. Were those about the same period of time, or?
They were close to each other,
Close
yes.
to each other.
Yeah.
And then you subsequently had those published.
Right. We had, I kept thinking about the old Western dime novels.
Yeah.
Just make a small story, something that can be printed locally and sold out.
And you do that. You've had this done at
Tattersall.
Tattersall.
Tattersall. Crystal Wood is the owner and editor of Tattersall Publishing.
Here in Denton,
Here
Texas.
in Denton, yeah.
They've been there a number of years.
Yes, she has. It was 10 years before 2000 when I took the manuscript and she rejected it. She says, I need 30 to 40,000 words. This is only 3,000 to 4,000. You're going to have to write 10 more words for each one. And she sent the reject letter. And it wasn't until 2 years later that she called me back and says, I've decided I'm going to publish your stories.
As they were?
As they were.
That's good. And you had written some more in the meantime, though. You continued
Yes,
to write. Yeah.
I'd written probably 3 or 4 different things. And I'd go in and talk to her, oh, this story, this is happening, this is happening.
Now, your writing is based kind of on biographical information, experiences that your reaction to situations you've seen.
Yes. Places where we've lived.
Yeah.
Experiences there.
Now on your website I saw this about Judge Frank Dalton in Tombstone, Arizona.
His name is Dutton, and it might be a derivation of Denton.
Oh.
Judge Dutton, Judge of Tombstone, Arizona, with a room full of pot next to his office, actually learned his shoe repair business in Denton, Texas.
Really?
From somebody that was doing shoe repair here. I didn't know that until a pretty lady came into the shoe repair in Sierra Vista, Arizona, and she said, yeah, there's 2 colleges in Denton. And I asked, is there a leather shop? No. Well, let me give you a ride back home. We got an Army OD surplus truck that I bought for $300 and arrived here in Denton.
Really?
Yeah.
What year was that?
July 2nd, 1974.
Really?
Yeah.
It's
never been able to get out of it since.
Yeah, yeah. Who is this had become a father? You had become a father at that time, or something in that story? Dan's store, 1974, the mirror frame. I was just...
Oh, I
on
was...
your website.
My wife and I have been married. We got married in the spring of 1975.
Yeah.
And our oldest son was born in 1977, May 20th, just coming up.
Yeah.
On his birthday.
Yeah.
But I had these pieces of wood that an old prospector in Sierra Vista, Arizona had found some lost furniture out in the desert. He said, I don't know if somebody just had the wagon break down.
Yeah.
They just offloaded everything. It was buried in sand. Maybe their animals died, whatever.
Yeah.
He said anything could have happened, but he brought in this mirror frame off an old chest of drawers, and it had those pieces of wood, and I carefully picked them off and laid them on a table and thought, there's a pretty little Valentine pattern. And set them, glued them, and they were a very dark tarnished black. Nobody was watching Antiques Roadshow where everybody was told not to refinish a piece of antique furniture. And in my leatherworking, I use alcohol a lot, and I spilled some alcohol on my little collage, and all the black faded away. So I took a scrub brush and the alcohol and scrubbed it all off. It was white hand-carved pieces of oak. And we took a picture of it out in the snow, black and white film. And a man down here at New Art Printing took that picture and had a metal shim die made so that he could print on cards,
Really?
business cards. Well, in our case, we had them printed on hat liners.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it became kind of like a family emblem on your website. Yeah, and in your hats, yeah. When did you start making hats?
Oh, 1970. Remember Clint Eastwood was wearing a nasty looking leather hat in some of his Good, Bad, and Ugly movies.
Oh, yeah.
And people in San Francisco, I want a hat. And I thought, well, I'll try it. I made a flat brim Western hat.
You lived out there then, San Francisco?
Yes. That's where all my leather work started. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You do the top hat, the wide brim.
Wide brim, top hat, a rebel cap, this style cap.
That's the Roadster.
The Roadster. The British call them a cheese cutter. All hats, all the styles of hats evolved from simple things like these hats evolved from the old fishermen's hats, and they
really?
get soggy and fold down, the old Greek and Norwegian fishing hats.
Yeah.
That's where they got the cheese cutter from.
I always wondered about that.
Yeah. So Western hats, the traditional 3 creases on the Western hat, they were just one crease down the middle in the Civil War of an officer's hat, rounded on top with one crease. But men pick up their hat a certain way and then it loses the sizing in the felt and it comes to that shape.
Yeah.
Every now and then there's some old cowboy came home smelling like Saturday night and his wife probably hit him over the head with a broom handle, and that kind of Western hat has a little bit more slope in the front.
Yeah. You make some nice hats. Have you made hats for various people around here over the years?
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It was in 1980 that I made a set of miniatures of each of the styles.
Those miniature monkey hats?
That's the story on the website, yeah. The first ones that I made that received the best of show at a state fair was size 3 miniatures, and it was size 3-inch in a line in the oval of a hat oval.
Yeah, yeah.
And that 3 inches would fit. It's just right for putting over the top of a beer can to keep the flies and the bees out.
Yeah.
But old hat makers, felt hat makers, if you wanted to get a present for your father or your brother or some relative, you'd go to the hat maker and he would give you a little box with a size 3 miniature hat in it.
Really?
And then you'd unwrap that for Christmas or birthday and take your little gift certificate basically back to the hat maker, and he would size you with this exotic looking thing to determine the right hat oval, short oval, wide oval, long oval.
Personalized hat.
Yeah, and personalize what color of felt did you want, what kind of crease did you want, and then make the full-size hat. I understand over at TWU they've got miniature ladies' hats.
Really?
That salesmen would put in a suitcase and go out to the farms and the ranchers and sit down with the farmer's wife and daughter, and they would pick out their hats. So miniature hats were, oh, that's nice. I've got a large bag full of scraps. What am I going to do with the scraps?
Was it tedious to make them, though?
It's a little bit harder to make them because you get big hands in a small space.
Yeah.
But they won blue ribbons and best of shows each time I put them into the state fair.
That's great. The Dallas State Fair, Texas State Fair.
Texas State Fair got more blue ribbons on the little hats. It was the Utah State Fair that I got a collection of 9 styles of size 3 hats.
Really?
And that was shown at a Denver Western Wear show, and a Texas rodeo clown saw them and contacted me, called me up, says, I've got 2 monkeys, I've got Western outfits, I've got little saddles for the sheepdogs, but I don't have hats to fit the monkeys.
Really?
And I said, well, you measure that around their head
and
and send that to me and I'll make a hat. So he had 2 miniature monkey hats. I don't know how many people have seen those at rodeos, but he was a clown, you know, risking his life each time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear from him in the future?
No, I was in the Denton Mini Mall trying to put together a manuscript for a leathercraft book. And a customer came through, looked at the miniature hat, says, "I've seen those before." I said, "On 2 monkeys?" And he says, "Yeah." He had been at the Fort Worth Stock Show. The monkeys, after the rodeo, had been placed into a cage and set down next to where the rodeo clown was going to load them into the trailer.
Really?
And somebody's adjacent trailer backed up and killed the monkeys.
Oh, gosh.
He had to buy the clown 2 more monkeys.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, well. So it was nice to hear that somebody had seen.
They had their hats on?
No, they were packed away in the costume box.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I hate to hear about those monkeys, but...
I hated to hear it too, but it was
accidents,
nice.
Yeah.
It was nice to meet somebody that had seen the work but didn't know who had done the work.
That's right.
When I moved into that mini mall space, a lady in another vending booth came around with a leather top hat and said, "Linda said you're going to be making hats, leather hats. You might want to buy this one." And I asked her how much, and she said $10, and I only had $10. It was one of my top hats that had made it custom for a music student up here at North Texas State University.
Really?
25 years before. And it had a black liner with the gold logo emblem printed in it.
Is that right?
Instead of that Stetson red.
Yeah.
And here I was just opening up, and here's one of my children come back after 25 years. Oh, that's a nice sign. I think I'll stay here.
Never know what life's going to bring us.
That's right. It'll come back around.
It sure seems to. Denton has grown so much the last few years. The square has really picked up. Just so much activity going on up there. Do you think, I mean, there were a lot of, what's this? This is the Goats Bridge story?
Oh, the ghost story about the goat man on the bridge.
Yeah.
I really don't know much about it.
Oh, really?
I remember driving that road.
Yeah.
I think the scarier bridge was trying to drive to Aubrey. When you go out 428 out Sherman Drive,
Really?
That old iron bridge, you were wide enough to pass another passenger, but it was just blind. You had to get up on the bridge, then all of a sudden see an 18-wheeler coming at you. There's not enough room for you and the truck to go. They finally widened that bridge, but the Goatman Bridge down there, where is it, Bartonville, somewhere in that vicinity south of Denton, it's supposed to be a place where a goat herder was killed and his ghost stories were told over and over again.
Yeah, and Denton has a ghost story lady.
Maybe you'll get Shelley on the show and
I'd
she'll
like to.
talk to.
Yeah.
Shelley Tucker is a National Endowments of the Arts credited storyteller, yeah. She was telling ghost stories somewhere, and an official with National Endowment of the Arts heard her and approached her afterwards. And
that's great.
Gave her the proposition, and I guess duly called and authorized to be a national storyteller. Yeah.
She does groups on the weekends.
Yeah. She has some stories.
What is it about this John Denton guy buried there on the square? Do you know much about that?
Well, what I wrote in the Valentine card about John Denton was told to me by a descendant of the Cherokee Indian families that had settled around Aubrey, Texas.
Really?
And it's different than the printed history.
What does the printed history say?
I don't know if I have to quote and unquote who wrote it, but it was, you know, in favor of John Denton.
Yeah.
The other story was not very much in favor of it. the first people that settled in this area had an open range. And when the real estate development started up, fencing property, oh yeah, by the way, anything that's inside the fence, those animals are yours. And the prior owners, the Indian families, Spanish and some white folks that were living there, that was their stock in there. They'd rustle their stock back out and be accused of being thieves and rustlers.
Oh, really?
And hunted down. And that was part of the John Denton and 6 other members in a kind of the local militia. Well, let's go down there and find these people and read them from the book. Yeah.
What year did he pass away?
I couldn't quote you on that without having to read my own book.
Yeah.
I can't remember that well anymore. I don't know why.
Early in the 1900s, maybe the late 1800s.
No, it would be 1840.
1840-ish.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Because
and I don't know much about the story one way or the other, you know.
Well, it used to not be Denton County. It was all Fannin County with Bonham as the county seat.
Really?
It was actually the borders of a land grant that the Indian families acquired. And it was portioned up into 5 counties of Fannin, where Bonham is now, Collin, Hunt, Grayson, and Denton County. And naming it Denton County was in respect to John B. Denton's losing his life and trying to recover the stolen livestock.
Well, his name stuck at least.
Well, yeah. Bouncer Goen was he's passed away. His wife also passed away. It had Jackie's Hardware in Aubrey.
Oh, really?
And I asked Bouncer, I said, it says on the monument that he was shot and killed. Well, excuse me, Bouncer, was he shot with a gun or a rifle, or was he shot with an arrow? And he said, well, he was shot. When the men were afraid that they couldn't escape, he explained the men caved in a creek bank on John B. Denton's body. Pretty sure he was dead. What if he wasn't dead? What if he was just blacked out? He woke up being buried alive.
Yeah.
The story of where the bones were found was a mile or so downstream.
Really?
Let's ask him when we get on the other side.
Well, I was glancing over a lot of your information out there, but what was it about the medicine drum and these 30-minute sessions, the healing?
Oh, my mother it's been 7 years ago. The neighbors across the street are native to that area of the Rocky Mountains, the Ute Indians, and they rolled a medicine drum, 6-foot diameter medicine drum, across the street into Mom and Dad's living room.
Really?
Where they performed a full regalia, 3 songs. One of them was for healing, one of them was for grandparents, one of them was for something else I've forgotten, but the impact inside that closed house, I was impressed.
I bet.
I had goosebumps running up and down.
I'm sure.
That Indian group had performed in the opening ceremonies of the Winter Olympics that year.
Really?
Yeah.
I bet that was very moving.
It's one word for it, yeah. I thought it was appropriate to put it in the little story of She Rode Dinosaurs. That's where her story is located.
Yeah.
In She Rode Dinosaurs.
And that was the Denton Writers League. You were
oh, yes.
kind of working with them at that time, and a suggestion resulted in that book for a character of that age.
That's right. Denton Writers League would have a guest speaker each month.
Mm-hmm.
Second Saturday of the month. I'm honestly at a loss whether they're still meeting. And one of the guest speakers says there is a niche market where the girls are the little heroes, not the boys like Harry Potter. And in the age group of the 4th graders to the 6th graders, somewhere around 10-year-old age group, were the girls. And I had gone out for this event where I witnessed the drums, songs for Mom when she was sick. And on the main street of town, there's a bronze casting factory in the city somewhere, and artists bring their castings in to be made into bronze.
Really?
And several donations had dotted the main street of town. And there was one in front of a bookstore called the Red Leaf, and it wasn't much more than 1.5 feet tall, of a child riding a velociraptor saddled and bridled like a family pony. And I says, oh, there's my story. That guest speaker kind of as an assignment.
That word you used, that's a certain kind of dinosaur?
Yeah, velociraptor, yeah.
Yeah.
The one that's in Jurassic Park, the scary one in Jurassic Park.
Oh, is
not
that
the
right?
Tyrannosaurus.
Yeah. What year did you release that book, that story?
Well, you got me. I have to dig for a copyright.
Oh, that's okay, yeah. Well, Jim, you do a lot of things. You're a writer and you're a nice person. You open the doors for women with babies at the coffee house on the square and stuff like that. And I do appreciate you coming down today to share some things. And thank you so much.
Okay.
And thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. And stay tuned for more shows in the future. Have a great day.